that time where I can maybe add things. Here we go. John, here you there. Thanks for hanging on, as you always do. It is a Saturday, so that means it's time for the weekend to start and the weekend edition to get rolling here on SDH AM. We'll go over what happened yesterday, and we'll set you up for what's going to happen today. It is match day last. We'll finally get the field of 32. We'll go over what happened yesterday and break it all down for you there. We've got some highlights. We have some interviews. We have some tape to play, and we will get you ready for what happened yesterday and lay out where we are today. Bottom of the hour, Allie Howorth is here in Atlanta hanging out with family. So we decided to see if we could wake him up, maybe show him maybe having a little bit of an early breakfast and maybe some caffeine or something. Here on a match day in Atlanta at Atlanta Stadium. 7:30 tonight, we get to find out what happens with DR Congo and Uzbekistan. It is impactful in their group for the 2 and the 3. And you could have some more big names get bumped out if, in fact, DR Congo wins and gets a big result. And then if Colombia ends up getting the win in their matchup with some distance, then things could get a little interesting. But we'll see what happens there, and we'll lay out all of your scenarios coming up here in a little bit. So it's going to be all of us hanging out for a little bit and then trying to figure out what the rest of the day is going to be like. We do have news in a couple of different classifications and a couple of different places, so we'll have that for you here as well. Ricky, let's see. Yeah, Algeria and DR Congo could make 9. And I think what we're going to do when Allie comes on, we're going to start with a little bit of a freshman level Cabo Verde and then kind of go through every one that is to this point and just kind of get his analysis as to what it means. I wanted to get the bigger picture here with the larger field and what it means to have all of these teams based in Africa a part of this. And if you follow Allie on the media that is social, and I would recommend that you do. He did a bit of a video yesterday on his social media platforms that I wanted to kind of expound and get into with him. And it was a Cabo Verdean 101, but I wanted to kind of get into it a little bit more in depth, and that's why we invited him in here this morning. So that's the rundown there. Opening kickoff brought to us by our friends at Black Pitch Coffee and blackpitchcoffee.com. Starting your day with the most important stories in the game, the right way to start your morning. Black Pitch Coffee. Part of the SDH community, showing up at events all over Atlanta. Try their home blend made with beans from Brazil and Guatemala. Heavy body, notes of walnut and semi-sweet chocolate, and a rich world-class finish. Opening kickoff, powered by Black Pitch Coffee and blackpitchcoffee.com. I'm finally getting into the fun with panini. I'm finally getting into it. I got some for the birthday, and I couldn't just hang on to them and open them on the show, considering it was a birthday present. I had to kind of open them on the spot. And most of them are commons. And, I guess this is my way of being indoctrinated into it. It's like you're not going to get any of the big refractables. You're not going to get any of the big cards, not like Maddie where you're getting a Messi out of the blocks or anything like that. No, Nelson, since you were last, you're going to get the commons to get things started. But there was one card that I say card. You see, I'm treating them like cards. And my problem is that, I know you're supposed to treat them as stickers and put them in albums and such. For me, I'm going to have the hardest time pulling the trigger and having these go in as stickers. Got Kevin Pina from Cabo Verde. So that kind of made my day. So with everything that we've done, Cabo Verde right here. So Kevin Pina I picked up. That one for me was at the top of the list. You end up with Patrick Berger and Morten Thorsby from Norway, Alex Paulson from New Zealand, Aissa Mandi from Algeria. He's going to be busy today. Sam Adekubi, Oscar Bob from Norway. Got a lot of the Norwegians in this pack for some reason. Michele Mbawazi from South Africa. Victor Lindelof, they call him Victor Nilsson Lindelof from Sweden. Tariq Muharimovic from Bosnia-Herzegovina. Daniel Munoz from Colombia. Rami Ben Sabani from Algeria, and Amin Gourdi from Algeria. Jose Maria Jimenez from Uruguay, Orlando Mosqueda, Panama, Tyler Benden, New Zealand, Teo Hernandez from France, Matthew Ryan, Australia, Jamal Musiala from Germany, Abu Al-Nadi from Jordan, Gigovic from Bosnia-Herzegovina, Al-Sahafi from Saudi Arabia, Johan Vissa from DR Congo. I dug that one. So Johan Vissa, goal scorer, DR Congo there. Then Boudaoui from Algeria, Jordan Ayew from Ghana, Xavi Simon from the Netherlands, Sarpreet Singh from New Zealand, and Rodri from Spain. So those are my first 4 packs. There's a lot of Algeria in there on second brush. There's a lot of Algeria in here, a lot of Norway in here. I don't know why they ended up giving me the Algeria and Norway packs, but anyway, I'm off and running. And so I think the mother-in-law is going to be getting me more as birthday because that hasn't made it here to the front stoop yet. But, yep, I'm off and running, and I am not to the level of Sophia and Jason and Maddie when it comes to the star power. But, look, I got a Kevin Pina. And I'm happy about that. And I think we've also properly corrupted Maddie when it comes to the Cabo Verdean purchases. So do not be surprised. And the boss also was quite pleased that Cabo Verde made their way through because she likes the Cabo Verdean gear that's already here. And so we ended up getting more. And so, yeah, we're going to get bankrupt when it comes to Capelli, I'm sure. And we're going to be down at Atlanta Stadium today. And we're going to find out what that's going to look like. So that's opening kickoff. I'm off and running in Panini. Brought to us by our friends at Black Pitch Coffee and blackpitchcoffee.com. Starting your day with the most important stories in the game. Right way to start your morning. Black Pitch Coffee, part of the SDH community, showing up at events all over Atlanta. Try their home blend made with beans from Brazil and Guatemala. Heavy bodied, notes of walnut and semi-sweet chocolate. And a rich world-class finish. Opening kickoff powered by Black Pitch Coffee and blackpitchcoffee.com. So, like I said, we're going to be spending a lot of time on Cabo Verde for obvious reasons, having them qualify. We got Boss and I were out and about for birthday dinner last night, got back in time to see the end of the matches in that group. And, obviously, with what we've been telling about Cabo Verde, to see them qualify, you know what? Let's hear it. It's from our friends at K's TV. And this is the tail end of them watching the other match in the group to figure out if they were going to be qualified or not and where they were going to be in the grid. Here's the ending of the broadcast where the Cabo Verdean players were watching the other match to find out their future. K's TV on the call.
Vai terminar o jogo! Acabou! Cabo Verde transforma o sonho da ilha em verdadeira festa! Povo que carrega o amor por seu país, povo que sabe que disputar uma Copa do Mundo é para poucos, mas vê a sua seleção entrar para a história. Pela primeira vez disputa a Copa, pela primeira vez consegue a classificação. O sonho que parecia tão distante se transforma em realidade.
There you go. That's what a qualification means. And so then if you haven't seen it, Major League Soccer's posted it. And I think it was Instagram. Steven Moreira from Columbus Crew went live on his Instagram account, put the phone down on the floor, and you had all the players dancing around the phone, posted by Major League Soccer. And then, of course, you have folks like us who are trying to do live television at that point, reaching out to anybody and, how can we continue to further what's going on in our post-game show. And so the folks at RTE and RTE Sport, they had the phone number. And so you ended up live in a post-game show, catching up with Pico Lopez while they were celebrating. And they were trying to show the FaceTime to the cameras as they're having the conversations. It's out there. It's on RTE Sport. Here's the post-game crash where Pico Lopez picked up his FaceTime and talked about what it meant to qualify.
Here he is.
Well, we have our
Pico.
moments.
What's happened?
Congratulations. Yes.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Are you happy?
Can you turn around the phone and
Hold on, you're live on TV here. Say hello.
Oh, you're joking. I had to tone it down a little bit. I'm all good.
Well done.
Thanks very much. Yes.
No problem.
Now.
Well done, Pico.
Thanks very much.
Superb. Well done.
Would you believe I got called for doping?
Oh, really? Do you know what? After your last 3 performances and how you passed the ball, I'd be giving you a test as well.
Pico, I just organised a new contract here for you, so don't worry.
Happy days, yeah. The story is all the players are getting better, I believe.
Congratulations. Pico, congratulations. We're going to just turn you around to the camera, if you don't mind. We've spent the last few minutes talking about you facing off against Messi next week. You must be just living your dream.
Yeah, absolutely. I say, like, the first 2 games were amazing. It gave us a great opportunity, but it would have meant nothing if we hadn't gone and spoiled it today. Like, but thankfully, we held our nerve, got the point that we needed, and yeah, we have got a great game to look forward to now next.
Well, everyone is so proud of you and so excited. Stephen actually said you haven't given him a jersey yet, so he's waiting for his jersey. He wants it before Friday.
No problem. Well, we'll collect a few more now that we've one more game, like, so it'll be definitely one day for the gaffer.
Go on, enjoy it. Well done. We're all proud of you. Well done.
Well done, Pico.
Well done, Pico.
Well done. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Brilliant.
Well, if that hasn't secured him a new contract, I don't know what's going to.
RTE Sport finding Pico Lopez. I think he was in the locker room or the hallway or something like that. But that's the beauty of live TV. And getting folks to pick up the phone, you never know when, you never know what it's going to be like. You just slam them in and you work around it. So Cabo Verde advances. Like I said, we'll catch up with Ali Howorth coming up in about 15 minutes, and we'll get the entire run of what this means and how they pieced it together and how important it is for the recognition of football on the continent. And I think the key here is Thierry Henry in the post-match after we found out qualifications in the as they're seeing the scenes unfold on the pitch in Houston, Thierry Henry said something to the equivalent of, if you're not watching African football, that's on you. And so everyone who has not been watching, who didn't watch AFCON, didn't watch the qualifiers, didn't see what these teams are. Like I said, Jason said he thought Cabo Verde was going to get out of the group. They did. If you're not watching it, that's on you. And so to be able to see what, for those of us who are enjoying the expanded field, you're getting folks coming up and really taking issue with what we're seeing with the normal, the norms that we're used to. And so then you have more teams coming in from CONCACAF, you have more teams coming in from Africa, and you're seeing the results on a 48-team field. Cabo Verde, front of the line. And like I said, we'll catch up with Ali and get the what it means across the board for football in general. Like I said, we'll probably take it from the African perspective and then probably build it out a little bit. But yeah, it's going to be Cabo Verde 101 and introduce everyone to how they've done it and pieced it together and what it means and all that kind of stuff. So blessed to be able to catch up with Ali Howorth coming up in about 15 minutes. All right, the rest of the matches yesterday were as follows, sir. So Cabo Verde, Saudi Arabia, goalless draw. It was at a plus 257. And that was for that one to go down. That was the bigger number on the board amongst all of it. But once again, I think this is now, the third keeper in Vozinha to get 2 clean sheets over the age of 40. And I think so he is now in that group of 2. He gets one more clean sheet. He's tied for the forever record when it comes to that. Senegal needed to put up a number, and they did. It was a slow start. Then Iraq goes down to 10 men, and then that's when things kind of picked up second half for Senegal. Senegal ends up putting 5 on the board, and at a minus 435, sending Iraq home. 5-0 Senegal, your final. Norway rotated their side, had Erling Haaland on the bench. France put 4 on the board, and Dembele got a hat trick. And it was in short order that he picked that hat trick up. Minus 256, France with their lineup. France, 4-1 final. Spain got the 1 goal. That's all that they needed. Uruguay gets bounced at a minus 141. And Marcelo Bielsa pulled his captain, Fede Valverde, early in the second half. That didn't go well with Valverde. Probably didn't go well with the players in general. But it just seemed like there were points where Marcelo Bielsa just wanted to burn the boats. He was done with it. You look at him in the post-match, in the post-game on the field, in the interview, the mandated interview with the rights holder, and then you look at him in the post-match press conference room, and it was just flat-out impatience from Marcelo Bielsa. Uruguay eliminated 1-0. Egypt and Iran, 1-1 draw. You thought it was going to be a late goal by Iran, and I mean a late goal by Iran. But then it goes to VAR, and it's wiped off the board. Suffice to say that the Iranians were not happy with that. After the late VAR call, Gab Marcotti was in Seattle. Amir Galanoui lamented the conditions that the team had been facing in the tournament. And late, Shoja Khalilzadeh thought he scored. Got it behind Shabir in the 93rd, ruled for offside. The front half of his foot just goes behind the last defender. VAR's intervention, once again, now Iran is going to have to wait. Egypt gets Australia in the round of 32 with the 1-1 draw. Galanoui, quote, there are rules and it's all based on technology. I accept that, but I'm really upset because of the bad luck we had. Because of millimeters, our goal was ruled out. That's justice, but I'm upset by the bad luck. I used to think we were an oppressed team, but I note that we are also an unlucky team. And so, and literally, you have the from the BBC, there is a screen cap of the decision, and literally, it is about half of Khalilzadeh's foot as he's leaning forward. It's the front half of Khalilzadeh's foot that is offside, and so therefore, it is offside. Still, we managed to perform. The world is now proud of Iran and our team. So that is where Group G ended up. Iran is having to wait after all of this. And then Belgium beating New Zealand 5-1. That one started out, fairly slowly, and then you end up with Belgium late night, basically. You had Trossard scoring in the 28th, the 50th, De Bruyne in the 66th. Elijah Juiced gets one back in the 84th to make it 3-1. Lukaku puts the fourth on the board less than 2 minutes later. Salamaker scores at 90+4. Belgium is 1-2, and they're at 5 points. New Zealand leaves the tournament with 1 point. And so after the match, Darren Baisley was asked about what he thought about his team's performance on the evening, and then Baisley kind of drifts it into what he saw with this club's performance in the group stage overall.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably still sinking in, that we're out and that we have to go home. This was a tough evening tonight. We knew we would have to survive. We knew that when Belgium put their team sheet in, that this is a really strong team. And the first 20 minutes was tough. Staying in the game, surviving, and I thought the guys did a great job defending. Last gasp defending, emergency defending. And we were staying in the game, and that was what the plan needed to be. We needed to stay in the game as long as we can, open the game up second half, and try and win the game tonight to get that win that we wanted. But then we conceded a really poor goal, and then we have to chase a game because this is a team that are not just going to go, let's lose 2-0. We opened the game up, made a lot of attacking changes, and against a team like this, you run the risk of conceding goals like we did. But when I look back, I'm so proud of the players. They worked so hard today, but that our World Cup exit isn't really tonight. It was, when we're leading twice against Iran and leading against Egypt, they were the points that we needed to qualify out of this group, and we didn't do that, and we left ourselves a tough task to beat Belgium tonight.
Most certainly, Darren Baisley, and New Zealand is done after match day 3. 5-1 loss to Belgium last night. So once again, to recap what happened yesterday with the 6, Senegal put 5 on Iraq. Most of that finally happened when Iraq ran out of gas when they were down by 10. France put 4 on Norway. Dembele was huge. Spain got the 1 goal they needed. That was it at a -141, knocking off Uruguay. Keep an eye on Uruguay and what happens with their future. considering the internal upheaval that was being reported leading into this match. Cabo Verde, Saudi Arabia, once again, goalless draw. Cabo Verde gets into the knockouts, and they get to go to Miami to take on Messi and friends in the round of 32. Egypt and Iran, the 1-1 draw after what we thought was a late goal in the 90-plus, wiped off the board by VAR, and then Belgium, the big win over New Zealand. So that's where we are today. After the top of the hour, when we get to have our hydration break, we'll break down everything that's going to go on today. 2 at 5, 2 at 7:30, 2 at 10. 2.5 hours apart. 5 o'clockers, Panama and England. England a minus 588. Draws a plus 819. Draw is, and Panama to win is a plus 1750. Croatia minus 109 with Ghana. Draws a plus 220. Ghana's a plus 445. 7:30s. Once again, DR Congo, Uzbekistan. DR Congo on the minus side at a minus 141. Draws a plus 303. Uzbekistan is a plus 440. Colombia and Portugal. The other one in the group, Portugal, is favored. They're slightly on the plus side at a plus 104. Draws a plus 293. Colombia is a plus 270. Keep an eye on Colombia in that one. Then your 2 10 o'clockers, Argentina and Jordan. There are reports that Lionel Messi is going to rest. Don't know how much. Minus 625, playing Jordan, who's a plus 1750. Your draw is a plus 775. Algeria and Austria with implications at a plus 234. Draw is a plus 110, and Algeria is a plus 295. So that is that's your rundown of the 6. We've frozen those juice boxes there at the moment. So like I said, when we come back and we're going to wrap up your day, we'll go back and see if any of those numbers have shifted before we send you out here on Saturday. Once again, back here tomorrow morning, 9:05. We'll go over everything that happened in today's activity, and then we really will have everything squared away when it comes to the round of 32. We'll have the preview of South Africa and Canada. That will start things in the round of 32. So we'll have 31 teams to talk about starting on Monday when we're back here at 9:05, and we are breaking everything down here across the network. Thanks for hanging out with us, as you always do. And thanks for putting up with us with our expanded programming. I mean, it's a World Cup. You've got to expand your programming. So that one was, it's a no-brainer. We had to do it. And thanks for following along, as you guys always do. Today, what to watch, where to watch it, how to watch it by our friends at Fanatis, fntz.co/soccer down here. That link helps us out, helps them out, and helps you out, adding to your streaming services that you have, where you can access a lot of what's going on in the A and B divisions in South America. You can take a peek at everything BN. And I mean everything BN. You get Middle East, North Africa. You get their European action. It is the Polish League, the French League, and the Turkish League. Copa America. I mean, you get America. You get Sudamericana, if I could get my upper plate to work. Sudamericana, Libertadores. Copa Argentina on Teise and everything that they do. Links to Tigo Sports and to CATV. You can get TVV out of Venezuela, but as I say, if you have a certain cable system here in this part of the planet and you have the Spanish-speaking package, you've already got it. So that's your Surgeon General's warning there. CDO Plus out of Chile, Liga 1 Max Pro out of Peru, all in one place at Fanatis, fntz.co/soccer down here. Ollie Howorth coming up in a sec. Big FOX has your triple header. Panama, England, Colombia, Portugal, Jordan, Argentina. FS1 has the flip side in those groups. Croatia, Ghana, DR Congo, Uzbekistan, Algeria, Austria. Telemundo has Panama, England, Colombia, Portugal, Jordan, Argentina. Universo, Croatia, Ghana, Congo, DR Congo, Uzbekistan, Algeria, Austria. Fox O&E has all 6. 5 matches in MLS Next Pro. One of them, including Atlanta United 2 at 7 o'clock tonight. That one is in Athens up at Turner. It is Portland, San Jose at 4, Atlanta United 2, and Crown Legacy at 7, Chattanooga FC, Chicago Fire 2 at 7. I think that one is at the ballpark in the new baseball park in Chattanooga. Rapids 2, Vancouver 2 at 8, Ventura County and Real Monarchs at 10. Women's soccer on ESPN Plus, Northern Super League, Calgary and Halifax at 7 o'clock. There you go. What to watch, how to watch it, and where to watch it by our friends at Fanatis, fntz.co/soccer down here. Okay. We bring Allie in, and we find out first and foremost, have you had, how has your time been here in the suburbs of Atlanta, sir, more than anything else?
I love coming to Atlanta. Honestly, it's one of my favorite cities in the U.S. Like particularly the food scene. I feel like every time I come here, my brother and sister-in-law live here, so every time I come here, they take me out and we eat well. We were at a Cajun place yesterday, like this brunch spot, and I was just loving it. So I'm always happy to come to Atlanta. And as someone who lives in the UK, being somewhere where it's just warm, like it's wonderful. I love it.
Yes, and we, and I gave you my subtle hints about where to go before you get out of here. So you've got to go into downtown Decatur and catch Watch Fest and go and catch up with O'Sullivan's. Meanest BLT on the planet, and I'm not kidding. I mean, it will last you for a while. What I wanted to do this morning, and thank you for getting up early on a match day and hanging out with us, is I wanted to go through the teams on the continent. And I know that since this is your bailiwick, we're coming to an oracle to discuss these kinds of things. But I wanted to kind of start with a Cabo Verdean freshman level course and find out from you how they've done this. And I know that obviously, since not a lot of folks are paying attention to African football on the daily, it seems like it's being done in quiet. Is it really being done in quiet, and how did they piece all this together?
Yeah, Cabo Verde, to me it's kind of like a social experiment. It's like a social experiment where you take a tiny, tiny nation with virtually no resources, but you give them 10 to 15 years and you say, look, you're going to make the right decision at every step of the way. And in 10 to 15 years, you're going to be in the World Cup knockouts. Like that is what this team is. That's what this country is. I think there's so much that makes Cabo Verde a successful nation. A lot of it goes beyond actually the football. A lot of it goes into like the culture. Cabo Verde is one of the most kind of athletic countries in the world. From preschool all the way through to high school, there's a huge emphasis on sports, which is why they do very well at sports. Not just football. They're very good at handball, very good at basketball. And then but on the footballing side, what they've been able to do over the last few years is build a structure around the national teams to get them to succeed. So that looks like a few different things. They have built 2 technical centers, training centers on the islands, one in Santiago Island, one in São Vicente, which again is challenging because there's 9 inhabited islands in Cabo Verde. So trying to manage that is crazy. They on top of that, they then built a brand new stadium on the outskirts of Praia. It's not a great stadium in terms of its location, but it's a good stadium. They've developed the kind of infrastructure to start bringing in players from their diaspora. Last year, about 18 months ago, they hired their first ever full-time director of football, a guy called Rui Costa, who his job is just recruitment. It's just building these teams, and you see that success panning out. It's not just the men's. Their women's team played their first ever match in 2019, and at the net coming up women's AFCON in Morocco in August, I'll be there to watch them play in the WAFCON. 7 years on from their team being founded, they've qualified for a major tournament. They've just built the structures around this team in every single level of the sport to succeed, and it's remarkable.
And to see Bubista lighten up a massive stogie in the locker room. When you have someone who is a legend, who seems to be a calming influence and understands the place and understands the progression and not getting completely and totally just off the rails emotional at the slightest thing, he seems to be this calming hand that they really need, especially now that they are on this world stage.
100%. And let me tell you how strange it is to see him smoking a cigar, showing emotion, because he's one of the most emotionless guys I've ever seen. He's such a grumpy man. I remember after they qualified, when they beat Eswatini, bear in mind, this is the country's biggest moment, not just in football, not just in sport, like everything. This is the country's biggest moment. And I remember being there at the National Stadium, and the players are getting into like the little bus that they use to get from the stadium that's on the edge of town back into the city. And they're all partying. They've got the music blasting. They're having a great time. Everyone's having a great time. There's Bubista sat in the front next to the driver, yelling at them, like, "Guys, get in the bus. I want to go home. Like, let's go." He's such a grumpy man. But you're absolutely right. That kind of calm demeanor has set them up so well. Look, Bubista was a former captain of this team. In 2000, Cape Verde won their only ever trophy, which was the Taça Amilcar Cabral Cup, which was a cup for like West African nations. He was the captain of the team that won that. And his nickname when he was the captain was he was the quiet captain. He's always been like that. He's a calm, quiet, introverted guy. but when he speaks, then you take him seriously. And I think that has been a huge part of their success, is the fact that they've got this guy in charge who understands what this team's about. Look, he played professionally in Portugal, in Spain. He's only ever coached on the islands. He's never coached outside of the islands. So he completely gets what it means. And a good example of that is that when players join the team, because this team does have a lot of players from the diaspora, is he says in team meetings, in training, in all of that, any kind of official capacity, we only speak Creole. We don't speak English. We don't speak Portuguese. We don't speak Dutch, because there's a lot of Dutch-born players in this team. We don't speak French. There's a lot of French-born players in this team. He's saying, no, you only speak Creole. And what that has done is it's kind of integrated the players from the diaspora who maybe didn't grow up speaking it, but maybe kind of can understand it, or some like Pico Lopez, their center back, didn't understand a word for it. He's now doing interviews in Creole, and I think that is huge testament to Bubista, because that's not easy to do that, to make that decision. But by doing things like that, he's just gotten buy-in from the players, and he's gotten buy-in from the federation, and he's just managed everything so well.
You mentioned Pico, and Pico apparently in his spare time was watching like Portuguese and Creole programming on Netflix, and trying to find ways to integrate and become adjusted to the language in that way. So I mean, you're going to do whatever it takes. When the guy on the touchline says, "No, we're doing it in Creole," you're going to learn Creole, eh?
Yeah, absolutely. And Pico is such a good example, because this is a guy who's born and raised in Ireland, in Dublin. His mother is Irish. His dad is Cabo Verdean, but left Cabo Verde when he was 16. So in many ways, Pico has no connection to Cabo Verde. He'd never been to the islands. His dad is from a smaller island, São Nicolau, and he had no connection with this team. But I've interviewed him like half dozen times, and he speaks really proudly about the fact that, like, one of the joys of being a part of this team is being able to explore his Cabo Verdean identity. He now goes there all the time. His father-in-law was there for when they qualified for the World Cup. He came out with his dad to watch him. Like, he's been able to explore this, his culture. And I think the way Bubista runs it allows for players to do that. It allows for them to kind of engage with the country in a way that they really never would have been able to otherwise.
And nothing like getting Argentina out of the blocks and the knockouts, eh?
Yeah. Your reward for having a historically brilliant group stage is you get to play Lionel Messi. I mean, it's brutal. It's brutal. But I mean, look, they'll be going into this game confident, 100%. Will they win it? I really doubt it. And you have to say they've ridden their luck at times. If Lamine Yamal started that game for Spain, do they get the draw? I'm not so sure, because he's got the kind of magical ingredients to take apart any team. You would say Leo's the same, and he's not playing tonight. From what I can see, reports he's being rested for their Argentina's game, so he'll be fresh. But again, what you will say is this team will come with a plan. I would say of the three games, and again, I would have said this before the tournament, that this is one of the most tactically flexible teams we've seen in all three of their games. A very different game plan, a very different starting lineup. And so you can, whether or not they win, you can bet all your money that they will have a plan. They will have a plan for Messi. They will have a plan for Argentina. The question is it just a step too far? And, I hope not.
Yeah. So are you going to Miami?
No, well, I'm staying in Atlanta and hoping that they beat Argentina and come back to Atlanta to play.
There you go. That's the way. Right now, early juice boxes have Cabo Verde as a plus 1850 to win against Messi and friends on the third. We actually had early juice boxes on that one. Argentina minus 588. Looking at the remainder of the continent and how they've performed here in the tournament, you've got literally, I think it's pretty much all over the spectrum. You have a team in South Africa who you were kind of sitting there and you were wondering, okay, their early start out of the blocks, and you're going, yeah, and then they come up and bite you in the end. And then you have the same thing with a Senegalese team that took advantage of Iraq yesterday after a red card. It took a while for that engine to get warm, but then they put 5 on the board, and that moves them up the ladder in the third place things. What have you seen across the board from all of these others? Good, bad, ugly, indifferent. What has registered with you here in the group stage?
I think it's been overwhelmingly positive. I think you put Tunisia to one side because they have been the great embarrassment, the worst team in this tournament without a doubt.
Yes.
But I think outside of them, I think you can only look and be impressed by what a lot of these teams have done. South Africa are a great example. Like, they're coming back to the World Cup for the first time in 16 years. They hadn't qualified for a World Cup since 2002. This is for them to come back and get out of the group stage is really remarkable. And South Africa, I think, are great. I'm wearing a South Africa kit at the moment. They are, for me, I think, represent a lot of good things on the continent, because they're a team where every single player that plays for South Africa was born there. The vast majority of their players play their football there. And, we saw at the Club World Cup last year when Mamelodi Sundowns came and really impressed. They beat Ulsan Hyundai. They pushed Borussia Dortmund all the way. South Africa performing, I think, says a lot about the kind of standard of club football. Mamelodi Sundowns won the African Champions League just a few weeks ago ahead of this World Cup. And other teams have really impressed. Look, I got to hold my hand up. Ghana have blown me away. I thought they were coming into this tournament. I thought they were shoo-ins to come last. I thought Panama would beat them. I thought they would embarrass themselves, and they've turned it around brilliantly. And I think that's kind of been the story, is like all the teams have shown up in very different ways, because like you say, Senegal, if anything, were quite disappointing. We thought that they would, and they did push France for a half, but then fell apart, and we thought they would do better against Norway. But a lot of that for me comes down to they have a few internal issues going on behind the scenes, a couple poor selections. Kalidou Koulibaly, their captain, clearly it was time for him to move on. And when they did move him on, they suddenly put 5 past Iraq. So I think from an African perspective, look, prior to this tournament, only 2 African nations at a World Cup had ever gotten out of the group stage in one competition. We'd never had more than 2 get to the knockouts. And now we have 7. And after today, hopefully 9. It's Algeria and DRC could do it. It's a big ask, but they could do it. And I think for seeing all of this, it is so encouraging, and it justifies so many of us who have been for years and years and years saying that the way the World Cup is built is unfair, that it does not give good enough access to Africa. And bear in mind, this is a continent that's had to fight for its rights. 1966 World Cup is remembered for England winning it. What it's not remembered for is the African nations boycotting it because they weren't given a slot. They were given half a slot that they had to compete with against Asia. So we've had to fight tooth and nail. And look at the 2022 World Cup in Qatar. We saw for the first time every single African nation winning a match of the World Cup. We saw really, really good performance across the board. And this time we're seeing it even better. And I think it's just a huge justification. Look, the whole 48 team thing, you can say, it's controversial. I totally understand that. But the one thing that has done really well is allowed for proper representation. And that is something that we've been crying out for such a long time.
Yeah, CONCACAF the same way, where you're seeing Curacao come in and they get their first point. You're seeing a lot of these folks in CONCACAF that have been kind of flying below the radar. Haiti, for an example, going through everything that they've gone through in the last 5 years to get to this stage to perform the way that they have. You mentioned DRC. I want to get into the match today. DR Congo and Uzbekistan. And once again, if you're not paying attention, if we are not, subscribing to your Substack and getting everything that you are bringing into the atmosphere, we would be surprised that DR Congo would be in this position. But how surprised are you that DR Congo is in this position where if they win, they're in? If they win and put up a number, then they're kind of pushing the number 2 spot in the group. And if Colombia knocks off Portugal, then you're kind of like, hey, DR Congo could be the 2. But there's a lot in play here at Atlanta Stadium tonight at 7:30 here.
Yeah, 100%. And look, I would be amazed and overjoyed if they somehow overturned that kind of goal difference to overtake Portugal. It'd be amazing. I think, again, it's not a surprise that they're in this position for me. Look, I went into this group. I said, yes, they're going to be battling it out with Uzbekistan for that 3rd spot. I thought they could get a point from Portugal or Colombia. I thought it would be Colombia, not Portugal, but here we are. I think what DRC have shown over the last, I would say, 4 or 5 years since Sebastian Desabre has come in, he's transformed the way Congo approach football. He kind of came in after a string of foreign coaches who would stay in Europe or stay in South America, come in for an international break, coach the team, kind of do all right, not very well, and then go back home. Desabre moved to Kinshasa. He said, right, if I'm taking charge of this team, I'm taking charge of everything. I'm rebuilding the structures. I'm rebuilding everything. And that's what he's done. DRC are flying really, really high because of that. And, I spoke to a guy called Guy Bukasa, who's the under-20s coach and the under-23s coach, and he's worked closely with Desabre. And he's saying that, like, he has implemented this structure both on the pitch and off of it that has allowed for DRC football to flourish. Because you got to remember, this is a country of like 120 million. This is a country that's football mad. This is a country with a lot of football heritage and pedigree. So for them to be coming back and performing and returning to the world stage is huge. And it's, again, it's not a surprise. They've been building to this. They reached the semifinals of the AFCON in 2023. They've been building a structure, since then. They've been able to recruit more and more diaspora players. Axel Tuanzebe and Aaron Wan-Bissaka are two very good examples of English-born players who wanted to play for England, but now have decided to play for DRC. And yes, there was a little skepticism at first from the Congolese fans, but those two have been fantastic. And look, DRC, the one thing that has surprised me is they've been good going forward, because I can tell you, DRC guarantee for me over the last 4 or 5 years is a really, really boring game. Like, they don't concede much, they don't score much. Like, that's how they play football. And if you don't believe me, just watch back that game against Jamaica, the game that they qualified for the World Cup in. It was dreadful, and they scored an extra time off a corner. But against Portugal, they were really attacking. They created more chances than Portugal. They had more shots. They had a higher XG. Yes, they scored off a set piece, but they brought a bit more attacking flair than I thought they would, to be honest. So I think for me, that's what's encouraging, because for me, the big question was, I know they can kind of hold Portugal. I know they can hold Colombia. I know that they can probably stop Uzbekistan from scoring. The question is, can they score? So for me today, that is the big question. And I'm encouraged based off of the first two performances. They have players who can score, particularly Yohan Wissa, who is a brilliant, brilliant player and kind of would die for this team. I've interviewed him before, and the way in which he talks about representing Congo is just, it's special, really, really special. Yeah, and he's a guy who buys into this. Look, in 2022, he's born and raised in France to Congolese parents, but in 2022, on his summer holidays, instead of going to Dubai, instead of going to Miami, instead of going to LA, instead of going wherever, he traveled to Goma in the east of Congo on the Rwandan border, the place that is at the heart of the red zone of Congo, where you're told you cannot go there at the moment the Ebola crisis is going on. He went there in 2022 just on holiday, posted a couple Instagram pictures of how beautiful it was, didn't say anything, just said just showed how beautiful that part of the country was. And that means so much to Congolese fans in that part of the country. And that's why, this team is full of those kind of stories. This is a team where the players buy into what it means to be Congolese. So I'm delighted. And I think they can get it done tonight against Uzbekistan.
And speaking of Yohan Wissa, I mentioned in opening kickoff that I have finally been diving into Panini for this particular tournament. And so one of my first 4 packs that the boss got me, I ended up with a Yohan Wissa. So I have
you go.
My Yohan Wissa out of the box. I also have a Kevin Pena, by the way. So that was pretty cool. Yes. The other sides, the ones that we know about, that we see a lot, Morocco, obviously, you look at them and, you're not surprised by them anymore. But Brazil and Morocco trading punches. Morocco ends up as the 2 out of their group. And you end up with Ivory Coast. Ivory Coast, as we talked before when you visited us from Foxborough, for me, the only thing about their consistency is that they're inconsistent. And, you don't know which Ivory Coast you're going to get on a daily basis, but they end up number 2 in the group. We have purposely held Tunisia away because of everything there. We've already talked about them. Egypt finishes second in Group G, and with the chaos that they had on match day last, you figured it was going to come in one way or the other. Then, Senegal finishes in third, and they're in the math right now in Group I. And then you have all the activity today. Algeria is a part of the math today. You're looking at, we talked about DR Congo and we talked about Ghana. So right now, if all things being equal, we do have most of the threes figured out. We've got most of the matchups figured out. Involving the teams that are in the thirds and in the math, Senegal right now is 5th out of 8. They're at 3 points. They've got the best goal difference. Score and 5 will do that for you. Then Algeria's got a match to play. They are below the line. They are currently 9th at 3 points. They need a result, and then that would put them at 4 points -2. So that would put them basically in 5th. And then if DR Congo wins, that puts them at 4 points, and that slides them well up the ladder. Of the 3 question marks that we have going into today, how do you envision the threes coming up?
Oh, that is a good question. Yeah, I think Algeria are a funny one because you kind of never know what you're going to get from this team. They have some unbelievable attacking talent, unbelievable young talent. Ibrahim Maza in particular is just a phenomenal player. If there's one player you need to watch today, make it Ibrahim Maza. What a talent he is. And for them, they just need to get a result against Austria. You would think that that's the one that's a bit of a lock. Like, okay, that's all they need to do is to get a result, and they go through. As we talked about, DRC, it's just a question is, can they get a win? Like, can they score the goals? But I think having watched Uzbekistan in the first 2 games, having watched DRC, you would have them fancied. Ghana, like I said, complete surprise package this tournament. Like I've said before, like they everything they've done has been unexpected because they were a mess coming into the tournament. But you've got to say, like, based off of the first 2 games and based off of Croatia's first 2 games, you kind of fancy Ghana, not to win, but they don't need to win. They just need to get a draw to come second. Look, I don't think they're going to catch England. I think England are strong enough to put 2 or 3 past Panama. So I think, first place is out of the question. But, the onus is on Croatia. Croatia have to win, or at the very least have to they have to win to get through. So all of the pressure's on them. Ghana can play exactly how they played against England, sit back, play on the break. So Ghana already through. It's just a question of whether they come second or third.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm confident that they'll, get a good result, actually, which is, for me, again, is crazy that I'm saying that. But the other 2, I think I would give them kind of like a 60% chance, like both Algeria and DRC. Like, I think DRC are better than Uzbekistan. They should win. I think Algeria are, even with Austria. I think they're good enough to get a draw. It's just whether they let me down. But which, again, would be unbelievable. If we had 9 African nations, it just would be ridiculous. Like I said earlier, the most we've ever had is 2 out of 5, 40% getting through to the next round. And we might be on the cusp of seeing 90% of the African nations going through. It would be incredible.
And yeah, we're not going to complain because that adds to the coolness factor of the whole thing. All right, before I let you go, have you had breakfast already, or are you going to get breakfast?
I've got breakfast waiting for me.
All right, so a microwave oven. I won't hold you too long. How do you? And like I said, I am recommending everyone sign on to your Substack because of all the coverage that you give. How do you cover an entire continent the way that you do? It obviously is not easy considering where you're based in England. How difficult is it for you to get the information that you want to cover African football?
Yeah, it's a challenge. There's no doubt about it. And look, I do a lot of traveling. Like I said, I was there in Cape Verde when they qualified for the World Cup. I go to all the AFCONs. I go to all the women's AFCONs. I try to make it out for other big fixtures, whether it's big derbies in club football or it's, the Women's Champions League, things like that. I try to get out to cover them. But it's a big continent. And I think that's, for me, the great thing is, I'm someone who covers it full time, and every day I'm learning new things because there's just so much depth. There's so much diversity. There's just so much weight to learn. And I think one of the joys of being a journalist is you just get to talk to people. I'm constantly talking to people and talking to people who know far more about their country than I do, learning about their countries. And I think for me, that's one of the joys of being a football journalist is, you have the sport that permeates virtually every country of the 54. And I get to go and speak to people about it and hear their incredible stories. I did a story a few months ago on Eritrea, who's returned to playing football for the first time in like 6 years or something like that. That is incredible because Eritrea is a football mad nation, but is kind of considered the North Korea of Africa. It's a closed authoritarian state, so we almost never hear anything about it. And so for me to write about them heading to the AFCON qualifiers for the first time in years, it's an incredible story. And I think for me, that's the joy of it, is just finding out more and more about all these incredibly diverse countries.
And that's why we consult you as our oracle with everything Africa football. We will see you at Atlanta Stadium tonight. We don't want your breakfast to get too cold. We will see you in a couple of hours. And thanks for coming in and crashing the party. It's always great to talk to you and get our education when it comes to things. We'll see you downtown tonight.
See you later, John. Thanks for having me on.
There he goes, Ali Howorth. He's going to go get breakfast, because he needs to. He has to be. He has to be properly fortified when it comes to making sure that he is ready to go. So it's always great to catch up with Ali and find out what's going on. And yeah, so he's in Decatur. He is in Decatur, suburban Atlanta. He's on the MARTA line. He can just go up and back and up and back and up and back, and then he's good to go. So it's always great to catch up with Ali and find out what's going on. I will post the Substack, but it literally is it's Ali Howorth.substack.com. But yeah, subscribe to his Substack, and this is our way to become educated on everything Africa, because that's why I asked the question at the tail end of the segment, because I wanted to find out how you cover 54 countries and you're based in England. And he mentioned what it's like to try and cover a story like Eritrea. So it's always fun as a journalist to discover stories that you might not have a way to discover and find one way or the other. But for us, and when it comes to covering everything on the African continent, it has been a chance to catch up with Ali Howorth and just get smart and get educated and do all the things and make sure that we are as educated as we can be when it comes to everything on the African continent. So it's alihoworth.substack.com. And the point that he made, and Ricky, you made it as well in the Twitch pitch, is that you could have, by the end of today, you could have in a 32-team sprint, you could have as many as 9 teams coming from the African continent. 8 over 32 is 25% last time I checked. And 9 32. So you're probably thinking, what, about 27, 28% of the field at the end of the day, once we get matches that are done around 12:30 or so, that you could have basically 28% of the field from Africa. So, I mean, literally, AFCON could end up being one of the power conferences in this field of 32, which is insane to think about. It's cool to think about, don't get me wrong. But it is insane to think about that you could have as many as 9 teams from the African continent that are a part of the round of 32. And the 4-letter, they have done their research. You know, they have kind of sit there and come up with numbers and odds and such and tried to figure out, okay, your team and what chance do they have? And there are a bunch of numbers why every round of 32 team will or won't win the FIFA World Cup. So we'll look at, and this is from our friends at the 4-letters, Bill Connolly, and he posted this yesterday afternoon. So there's still some gap space in here. So looking at the teams that had qualified, so they included Egypt in here, and the Egypt numbers, the percentages, and they're done in we do this in alphabetical order? No. Why do we not do this in alphabetical order? Because Egypt is after England, which makes no sense. 0.5% to win the title with a projected round of 32 opponent. Like I said, this was written yesterday. So round of 32 projected opponent was going to be Korea Republic at the time that the article was published. So you get there, and like I said, I'm scanning down just to get the percentages here really quickly. Ghana had a 0.3% title odds, and the ridiculous defense is how it's like, here's how they will win it all on ridiculous defense. And then why they won't, they got to score, yes. Ivory Coast, 0.2% out of Group E, and according to the written from the 4-letter, they have a plan. 3 different opponents, 3 different matches, and then they don't shoot. Last time I checked, you got to shoot if you're going to score goals. Morocco, 1.8%, going up against projected opponent of the Netherlands. We'll go over the projections and how things look going into today, coming up here in just a bit. But at the time of writing, quoting our friends at Midnight Oil and Peter Garrett, at the time of writing, that was what it was looking like. Then you had, let me see, I'm scanning, so pardon me for a second. So it's South Africa, 0.1%, and they get better and better, and that was why I wanted to bring them up, because they're getting into the tournament, much like we saw with Ecuador. So you have all of those folks that were there. And grades for every eliminated team from Ryan O'Hanlon, and this came out about 30 minutes ago from the 4-letters. So they have New Zealand with a C rating as last place in Group G. And as we heard from Darren Baisley, had the lead against Iran twice, opened scoring against Egypt, and so then they got hammered by Belgium. Saudi Arabia gets a D- according to the 4-letter. And all they had to do was beat a country that had a population of 530 folks. Didn't happen. 17 total shots attempted, joint fewest for teams played all 3 group stage matches, tied them with Qatar, as Saudi Arabia is going to host the 2034. Iraq got a C- according to the 4-letter. Ranked France is the best squad in the tournament, Senegal 11th, Norway 9th, and France is number 1. So that was your group I. And let's see if there's any one that I missed. In the continent, Tunisia got an F, obviously. When you fire your manager, bring in a new guy, you lose 4-0, and then you play the Netherlands. So Tunisia won games at each of the previous 2 World Cups, qualified for 6 of 8. They got an F. And so that's where we are. All right, so let's go over standings and get you ready for today. And we'll get you into position to look at the third placers as we go. So Mexico, South Africa, South Korea, 1, 2, and 3 in Group A. Group B, Switzerland, Canada, Bosnia, Herzegovina. Group C, Brazil, Morocco, Scotland. We'll have news on the math in a bit. U.S., Australia, Paraguay. Turkey goes home. Germany, Ivory Coast, Ecuador. Ecuador is falling victim to math until they're not. Then they come up with a win and work their way through. Netherlands, Japan, Sweden, Group F, top 3, G, Belgium, Egypt, Iran, New Zealand eliminated. Like I said, we heard from Darren Baisley a little bit ago. Group H, Spain, Cabo Verde, Uruguay, and Spain and Cabo Verde and Uruguay, Saudi Arabia out. Group I, France, Norway, and Senegal. Iraq gives up 12, only scores once. Group J, this is today. Argentina, 6 points in. Austria, Algeria, each with 3, trying to figure out the 2-3. Jordan eliminated. They have scored twice. They've given up 5. They've lost twice, no points. Group K, Colombia, Portugal, Congo, and DR Congo and Uzbekistan. That's your matchups today. Once again, we'll get into juice boxes before we get out of here. Group L, England and Ghana with 4 points each. Croatia with 3. Panama has none, and they are eliminated. Right now, your 3s. Here's what to look at with the 3s. Morning, Abby. 4 points. Sweden, Ecuador, Bosnia, Herzegovina, Paraguay. Goal difference, Sweden, Ecuador. They were tied with a goal difference that was dead even, but Sweden has scored 5 more goals than Ecuador did. Bosnia, Herzegovina, -1, Paraguay, -2. That's your 4-pointers. Senegal right now is your top with 3 points because of the 5 that they put on the board yesterday afternoon. 8 goals scored, goal difference of +2, they're on top. Iran with 3 draws right now. 0s for a goal difference. Right now, they're the 6. Croatia match in hand. 3 points after 2 matches, -1 in goal difference. South Korea right now is the 8. They are in the barn, 3 points and a -1 goal difference. They have scored 2 goals. Folks below, Algeria, 2 matches and 3 points. They're at -2 in goal difference. If they get a result, it probably puts them in at the 5 or somewhere in that area, which knocks the Korea Republic out. Scotland is done. They're below the bar. They're at -3 and 3 points. Keep an eye on Steve Clark and his CV. Uruguay in the barn, 3 points, three matches, 2 points. They're done. So Scotland and Uruguay go home after last night. DR Congo, we talked about it with Ali. 1 point with the draw. But if they win today, 4 points, and they would be toward the top of the 4-pointers in goal difference. So they would probably be the 3-ish or somewhere in there if they just get a result. If they get a result with some space and Portugal has some problems, you could have a scenario, I feel like Patrick McGowan in Silver Streak, scenario whereby now Colombia right now, Portugal, goal difference of +5. Somewhat insurmountable, but you look at it. And DR Congo, once again, with their goal difference right now, is at -1. So if you put 4 on the board, you're at 3. And that's the other thing here. So are you just going to be happy to get in, or are you going to continue to push if you see that Fabio Cannavaro and Uzbekistan are on their heels? That would be a big question. So Group K, Colombia, if Colombia wins, even though they're the dog, they'd be at 9 points. And then you would assume that Portugal's goal difference would decrease. DR Congo puts up a number. They could come out from lane 8 and they could snatch the number 2 seed away from Portugal, and it would put Portugal possibly in the 3. Like I said, a couple of things have to happen there. A, Portugal's got to lose. Then DR Congo's going to put up a number. So keep an eye out on that for Group K for the matchups for 7:30. Along those lines, DR Congo's got a chance. Algeria's got a chance. Croatia's got to get something done. Korea's at -1 in goal difference. Iran is at 0. Keep an eye on them going into today. As a part of our morning programming here during the hydration break, which will play during our AST Rewind, Atlanta Soccer Tonight with Jason every single night here during the World Cup. Start your day here and with Morning Espresso, the newsletter. You end your day with AST, wherever it's going to be. Here's your AST Rewind from last night where Jason was talking about things that make him smile. And obviously the big topic that we had with Ali Howorth is what made him smile across the board. Here's AST from last night, your AST Rewind.
And number 3 on things that make me smile, I mean, how could it not be Cabo Verde, right? Most of us have never heard of Cabo Verde until the last few years. Cabo Verde is a team that has been trying to get to the World Cup really for not even that long, a little over 20 years. They haven't been FIFA members for much longer than that. They have just started in the last decade getting into the African Cup of Nations. This is a national team that has been built through the diaspora. It is a national team that when you start to have this happen, and we see this happen in college football, we see this happen in March Madness for sure, where a school comes out of nowhere and then everybody wants to know about it and everything starts to happen for that school. You can absolutely track football and basketball success with success in terms of enrollment numbers or application numbers at colleges. The same thing happens with the World Cup. Cabo Verde is a nation that really wasn't well known worldwide until the summer. I mean, just the Google searches for Cabo Verde has risen dramatically. You're gonna have more business, more potential tourism, more opportunities for these players. They have put their country on the map. That's amazing that we've watched this play out. We watched the first step for that here in Atlanta with Cabo Verde, which feels like a month ago. This tournament's moving fast. It was not that long ago that Cabo Verde started their journey here in Atlanta. They have picked up 3 straight draws in the group stage, and that's enough for the Blue Sharks to get their way into the knockout rounds and draw not just any game in the round of 32. Cabo Verde's first knockout game at the World Cup is against the defending champions, Argentina. Cabo Verde against Messi. That's how the round of 32 is going to start. Now, we know for the United States, they will play Bosnia and Herzegovina on Wednesday at 8 o'clock with the kickoff. I can only imagine how many different opportunities you're going to have to watch this game in places all over Atlanta. This is going to be an incredible night for the sport in our city and every city in the United States. We'll be talking so much all weekend long about everything U.S. men's national team to get ready for that game against Bosnia and Herzegovina.
All right, that's your AST Rewind. And to let you in on what we know. Here's what we know about the next round. All the whens and the whys and the wherefores. So here's your timing when it comes to the bracket and the knockout stage. Locked in, Germany and Paraguay. That one's at Foxborough on the 29th of June. 4:30 in the afternoon, if my math is correct. 21 minus 5. Yeah, 4:30 in the afternoon on the 29th. So if today is Saturday, so Monday afternoon, Germany and Paraguay in Foxborough. Winner of that one gets the winner of France and Sweden. That one is Tuesday at 5 o'clock in the afternoon from the Meadowlands. That is those two are locked in. So you could have France and Germany in round number 2 in Philly on July 4th. South Africa and Canada, once again, that one is tomorrow to start the round of 32. 20 minus 5 is 15, so 3 o'clock in the afternoon at SoFi. Winner of that one gets the winner of Netherlands and Morocco, which is in Monterrey, which is Monday night, 02, so 9 o'clock Monday night in Monterrey. Netherlands and Morocco, winner of that one gets winner of South Africa and Canada. That one's at NRG on July 4th. Right now, Portugal would be playing Ghana in Toronto. Winner of that one would get Spain and Austria in Dallas at Jerry World on July 6th. U.S. Bosnia-Herzegovina locked in, 8 o'clock Thursday night. Well, no, that's if you subtract 5. So 8 o'clock Monday night, July 1st. It says 1 o'clock in the morning, July 2nd, which is true if you're in London. I have to remember these are London times. I have to subtract 5. U.S. Bosnia-Herzegovina, Santa Clara, 8 o'clock Wednesday night. Our Wednesday is going to be stupid. We'll keep you posted on it, but it's going to start early and end late. Winner of U.S. and Bosnia-Herzegovina right now gets Belgium or South Korea. South Korea, Korea Republic, remember, they're in flux with what's going on below them. That one would be July 1st, 4 o'clock in the afternoon in Seattle. Locked in, Brazil and Japan, Monday, early afternoon in Houston at NRG. Winner of that one gets the winner of Ivory Coast and Norway. That one is early afternoon Tuesday at Jerry World. So you could have Brazil, Norway in round number 2 in the Meadowlands on Sunday afternoon. Right now in Mexico City at the Azteca, it is scheduled Mexico and Ecuador. Once again, what's going to happen below will determine. That one is Tuesday night at the Azteca right now. Winner of that one gets England or Senegal. That is the matchup that is slotted for noon Eastern Wednesday here. So on Canada Day, you have England and Senegal in Atlanta. And you could have in the round of 16, France and Germany, July 4th in Philadelphia. Hang on to your hat, people. Argentina, Cabo Verde. This one is Friday, dinner time in Miami. Argentina, Cabo Verde. Winner of that one gets the early afternoon match of Australia and Egypt. That one is at Jerry World, July 3rd at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So Argentina, Cabo Verde, Australia, and Egypt. You look at this bracket for Argentina, and it kind of opens up for them till Kansas City, when they would get the survivor of Brazil, Norway, Mexico, England, if you believe in chalk. Low bracket, once again, Argentina, Cabo Verde in Miami. That one's July 3rd, dinner time. Winner of that one gets Australia, Egypt, July 3rd, 2 o'clock in the afternoon at Jerry World. Right now, the other two matchups in that quadrant to be determined, but right now, late night Thursday, like 11 o'clock Thursday night, it would be Switzerland and Iran at BC Place. The winner of that one would get, in theory, Colombia or Croatia. 2:30, so 2.5, 9:30 Friday night at Arrowhead. So most of these matchups are locked in place. If Switzerland wins, they would, if as it stands right now, if Switzerland wins, they would stay in Vancouver to take on the winner of Colombia and Croatia. The winner of Argentina, Cabo Verde, Australia, and Egypt comes to Atlanta Tuesday, July 7, 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So that's your rundown of what it looks like right now with the World Cup schedule. Oh, Cupped Lander 3, blah, blah, blah. You're going to get nuked here in a second. All these AI bots, nothing like a Saturday show where you end up with a bot. So Cupped Lander 3-0 whatever. You have been blocked. And now you're going to get reported for being a bot. Viewer solicitation bot. There we go. 23 characters out the door, and you've been reported. So that's not going to happen. So that's your rundown of the bracket as we know it. Once again, getting into the matchups today. Matchups of note. You got 2 at 5, 2 at 7:30, 2 at 10. One of the ones at 5 is England and Panama. England and Panama is down the road. Hang on, here we are. England and Panama is in the Meadowlands, 5 o'clock Eastern kick. We mentioned the juice boxes. And they changed a little bit. We'll get into it in a second. Kavi saw a call from Sky, opened up the MD-1 with a question to Thomas Tuchel about Reece James. And here is Thomas Tuchel's answer about Reece James and a bit of the question from Kavi Salikal, injury concerns for England. And this was at the MD-1. So here's Thomas Tuchel getting ready for the matchup this afternoon.
Reece has minor hamstring issue, minor hamstring injury. Was not able to train the last 2 days. He is now in a accelerated rehabilitation program, and we take it game by game, but we strongly believe that he will be available for us in the tournament. The thinking, we called Trevor Chalobah to free up Joel Kwanzaa on the right fullback position for us. I saw him very strong there playing for Liverpool, and he played in a back three, which is not so far away from the position in Leverkusen. And we have Chad Spence. No one could see that coming. Reece was in good shape and felt very good. So it's a bit unlucky, but as Kwanzaa played on the position as well for us on a high level, we're still no problem. We would love to have Reece. He's a key player. We would love to have him available. He's not available. We will find solutions. That's what we do. It's a short period of time. It's a tournament. We will find solutions.
We will find solutions. That's what Thomas Tuchel says. We will find solutions. The 7:30s, once again, remember, Colombia, Portugal. Portugal, those numbers have shifted a little bit. So Roberto Martinez at his MD-1, where you have the 7:30s. Croatia, by the way, Croatia, Ghana's in Philly. 7:30s, Colombia, Portugal is in Miami at Hard Rock at the same time that the DR Congo and Uzbekistan is going on here in Atlanta. Roberto Martinez had a bit of an interesting press conference yesterday for his MD-1s. There was a point, I want to say it was about 7 minutes in, maybe halfway through, where Dua Lipa was being piped into the area. And it was, it was obviously people are trying to get the music to be turned down, shut off, what have you. Took them a little while. But you ended up with Roberto Martinez having to dodge music in addition to the questions from the media. And he was asked about whether or not finishing first or second in the grand scheme of things really mattered these days, especially with the expanded field. So once again, pre-match, the MD -1s. Here's Roberto Martinez's answer.
It doesn't. It doesn't. My experience, probably in my first World Cup, I would have said yes. You sit down and you are so inexperienced. You want to plan everything. You want to try to journey, and you want to find. And then you realize that that doesn't happen in competitions. If you remember, in 2018, we were both qualified, England and Belgium. We went to play a game knowing that the winner was going to face Brazil, and we won against England, which you felt that the team grew a lot, grow in confidence. Gets everybody involved, and then it doesn't matter about the opponent. And we beat Brazil when probably then it would have thought that, and I believe in that. I believe that the focus should be try to win every game, try to create the best possible atmosphere in your dressing room, forget about the opponent, respect the opponent. But if you want to do well in the tournament, you have to be able to beat everybody and anybody. So the journey doesn't matter. The complexity in this World Cup, there are 3 countries, you could be traveling, so there is not a better journey than another. So you have to accept the complexity, and the focus for tomorrow for us is try to be at our best and try to win the game.
So they're going to try and win the game. Thomas Tuchel has abandoned the notion of rotating in his matchup, so that's not going to happen. And so we'll keep an eye on those matchups. The late games, Algeria, Austria, and Jordan, Argentina. Algeria gets to play at Arrowhead again. 10 o'clock with Austria, and then at Jerry World, it's Argentina and Jordan. Lionel Messi apparently is going to start on the bench. Post-match press conference last night, Marcelo Bielsa said he had left nothing to Uruguayan football after overseeing their elimination. Sid Lowe was in Guadalajara for The Guardian. Took over in 2023, is not going to continue in the post. Quote, I've not left anything to Uruguayan football. A coach who's been in a country for 3 years and not got results cannot say he has made a contribution. 4th place in the qualifiers has no value, nor does 3rd at the Copa America, and there is no need to even define this performance. My time doesn't say anything, end quote. He continued, we could have 7 points, but we have 2. This is the result of my management. It was my job to manage a group of players that I did not manage to turn into a force. If you want explanations, which I don't think you want, I would say that of the 7 points we deserved, we got 2. I'm responsible for what Uruguay did at this World Cup. Questions do not seek answers, but a chance to attack me. I'm responsible for all the disappointment because of the job I did. But if I have to analyze what happened, I also have to include the errors. Muslera was the one that decided to depart, and I took Valverde off because I wanted to strengthen the attack, end quote. Spain, you have to keep an eye on them. Yeremy Pino probably is not going to play again this summer. Nico Williams, keep an eye on that. Pino got a suspected broken collarbone in a fall, leaving in a sling. Williams departed limping. Luis de la Fuente, quote, the worst thing is the tremendous pain we have because of what happens to Yeremy, who could miss the rest of the World Cup. So keep an eye on those 2 injuries for Spain going forward. Marcelo Bielsa takes the blame and is not returning. Panama is going to be defending in pretty much, if they can find anything from rapid transit in that particular part of the planet, they're going to try and find it, camp out in front of net, and good luck trying to talk to as many of the governors in the tri-state area as possible, put as many of the trains in front of the net as they go. So England has to come up with a solution with Panama, who's going to be camped out. We know that's going to happen. So we'll find out what the latest is there as we get ready for anything and everything coming out of match day last, group stage last. The idea that you had to, getting into news, by the way, the idea you had to offer Mauricio Pochettino a chance at a contract extension. It literally was like, and I was talking to the boss about this last night, This was like, when you have when you're a senior in high school or a senior in college, and you've got that, you have that SO that you've been dating for however long, and you're trying to figure out your future. And so you have the conversations where, hey, are we going to stay in touch? Are we still going to call each other every day? Those kinds of things. You had to offer Mauricio Pochettino along those lines. You've been dating for a while. Yeah, you might be going to a school on the East Coast, and the SO might be going to a school on the West Coast or a job on the West Coast, and you've got a job on the East Coast. But you had to offer Mauricio Pochettino an extension. You had to do it, because if you didn't do it, then it was going to be one of those things, well, why didn't you do it? If he'd asked, he might have stayed. Don't go to school halfway around the world. Don't go to school on the West Coast. Don't take that job in Silicon Valley. Stay here. If you don't ask and don't go through that part where it's raining outside and you don't have an umbrella and you're wearing the London fog coat and you're asking the SO to stay, you're going through that. You might walk home in the rain without an umbrella and you won't look great. You might catch pneumonia, but you still ask the question of the SO. Don't go. That's what I think is going on here with Mauricio Pochettino. You have to ask. You have to ask. You had to sit there and say that, yes, we want to keep you around. We had to do that. You have to. And so they did. And so U.S. Soccer has done that. Extension through 2030. Negotiations have been going on for 3 months. But obviously right now you want to keep an eye on what's going on. You're looking at long-term goals. Proposing a second cycle for Mauricio Pochettino and his staff. Considering what they've done in a very short period of time, it makes sense. But you had to do it. Once again, contract due to expire after the current World Cup. Conversations have been going on for a couple of months. Proposal was done before the World Cup started. Hey, we want to keep this relationship, And so that's where you are. And so both sides, they wanted to wait until after the tournament to make any kind of final decision, understandably so. And so Pochettino's going to be a free agent about a month. But you had to do this. Home Olympics in Los Angeles. Probably the Copa America in 28. New training center here in the southern suburbs. Then you give Pochettino another 4 years, and he gets to kind of really mold it the way that he wants to mold it. But you had to do it. And so now you have part of the deal to sign Pochettino depended on support from Adam Crafton at The Athletic. Philanthropic leadership gift from Ken Griffin, the founder of Citadel, the hedge fund. Additional support came from Scott Goodwin of Diameter Capital and several commercial partners. April 1st, 2024 to March 31st to 25. Pochettino's prorated base salary projected around $4 million. Bonuses and incentives could have pushed the title between 5 and 6, and that was in a non-World Cup year. Extension puts him in line to be right with compensation with a lot of the top international coaches around the planet. Still less than you would make if you were a coach of a club, but still. So, yeah, you had to do it, and you did it. And so now we all wait. We wait to find out what it looks like with everything that is laid out. So that was probably another one of the larger stories was Pochettino. You had the Spain injuries, you had Pochettino, and you end up with all of the matchups that are coming today. So let's take a peek one more time at all the other news that we might have missed. the MLS All-Stars have been named, or at least they started to be named. The Liga MX side named their first 14. And so you're starting to get that news that it's trickling through, attached to anything and everything else that's going on. A lot of the activity is right now, it's World Cup focused, but you're also getting folks drifting back into camps and such. Liga MX has unveiled their first 14 players for the MLS All-Star game. Nahuel Guzman and Keylor Navas in net. Jesus Gallardo from Toluca, along with partner Federico Pereira. Brian Gonzalez from Chivas. Midfielders Kevin Castaneda from Xolos. Nicolas Castro from Toluca. Gorriarán from Tigres. Gutierrez from Chivas. Eric Lira from Cruz Azul. Marcelo Ruiz from Toluca. Santiago Sandoval from Chivas. And up top, Joao Pedro from Atletico San Luis. And Armando Gonzalez from Chivas. So those are the first two. That's the first round of rosters named for the Liga MX side as they get ready for the game at Bank of America July 29th, when it's Major League Soccer going up against Liga MX. The hometown heroes were announced earlier this week, and hometown heroes once again get a $15,000 grant to support their mission for their respective organizations. David Nicole Tepper Foundation matching the $15,000 grants awarded to each of the 4 Hometown Heroes organizations. Brent Bronico serving as the official ambassador for Hometown Heroes. And so Hometown Heroes are Alicia Fleming, Board Chair at Anderson Outreach, Janae Aiken, Director Emerging Leaders Program of the 2-6 Project, Ashley Allen, the Co-Executive Director of Read to Succeed in the Asheville-Buncombe region, and Maureen Kruger, the Executive Director of the Charlotte Tool Bank. And they're also going to posthumously recognize Dr. Victor Kidd as an honorary hero this season, partnering with the league on a couple of different initiatives, including MLS Next, designing training programs for academies, and helping to co-create Playing as One, the flagship program dedicated to combating discrimination on and off the pitch. And so Anderson Outreach, 2-6 Project, Read to Succeed Asheville Buncombe, and the Charlotte Tool Bank, those are your hometown heroes attached to the Charlotte section of the All-Star Game presented by RBC Wealth Management. So very, very cool stuff there. The MLS Next All-Star Game rosters have been also produced, and annual showcase 44 players selected following the end of the 25-26 regular season and 2026 MLS Next Cup, where Atlanta United served themselves very well. And the MLS Next All-Star Game, 7:30 Monday night, July 27th at Mecklenburg. That's up in Matthews. For Atlanta United, they are represented by David Ilabari and Sei Fakiesi, both of the U16s. So they will be a part of the roster on the east side going up against the western roster in the MLS Next All-Star Game. Last year, the East got a late game winner and got the win over the West. So coaches are going to be Charlotte FC's U18 head coach Jordan Melia, guided the U18 squad to a runner-up finish in their conference, and then the West All-Stars are going to be coached by Sounders U15 head coach Ethan O'Neill and U16 head coach Matt Dorman, who joined the club's academy in 2024. But Atlanta United is going to be represented at the MLS All-Star Game, David Ilabari and Sei Fakiesi. So very, very cool for them. Once again, Monday night, July 27th at 7:30 from Matthews, and it'll be on MLSsoccer.com and YouTube. And if you want to go, you can go. It'll be free of charge, but you've got to click on the link to get tickets. So that's the other news that is attached to Major League Soccer that was written down here this morning. Okay, really quickly, let me go over gossip, rumor, and innuendo for the morning, and we'll go over juice boxes one more time, and then we will get you on your way to get all gassed up and ready to go for a very, very busy time that is going to be here when it comes to the soccer and the sprint that is attached to the World Cup. So we'll see if we have any gossip, rumor, and innuendo yet, or if it's entirely too early to get all of these rumors and get them pushed in one place. We have all of this action, and we actually do. Okay, so we do have rumors very, very early this morning. Manchester City ladies team to join the race for Lille and Morocco midfielder Ayoub Bouadi. AC Milan reached an agreement with PSG over a €74 million deal to sign Gonzalo Ramos. Your trending rumors: after agreeing to the £116 million deal to sign Elliot Anderson from Forest, City once again joining the race for Bouadi, according to Matteo Moretto. Contact already been made over a deal. Arsenal, Liverpool, Real Madrid also linked. Looks set to go through after the tournament comes to a close. Newcastle braced for City to ramp up their interest in Sandro Tonali, according to the Telegraph. AC Milan have reached an agreement on Gonzalo Ramos. Transfer is set to be a club record deal for the Rossoneri, eclipsing €35 million to bring in Rafa Leao back in 2019. Bournemouth have joined Arsenal in the race to sign PSG's Emmanuel Mbemba this summer, according to the BBC. 18-year-old defender who can play left back and center back, set to leave the Ligue 1 champs as a free at the end of the month. Bournemouth have made an offer that would see Mbemba given a pathway via Lorient. Arsenal's offer is claimed to have impressed the player. Chelsea set to pay a fee of £47.5 million to sign Maxence Lacroix from Crystal Palace, according to L'Equipe. 26-year-old set to move to West London at the end of the World Cup. Played 90 minutes against Norway, 98 times for Crystal Palace since his move from Wolfsburg, helping wins in FA Cup, Conference League, and Community Shield. Wales keeper Carl Darlow expected to reject a move to Manchester United in favor of staying at Leeds. Team Talk reporting confidence Darlow is going to sign a new 2-year deal at Ellen Road, even though he hasn't been guaranteed to be the number one, meaning an exit for Lucas Perry is on the cards for Manchester United, means the search is likely to continue for a number 2 for Sene Lammens. From the four-letter themselves, Arsenal had a £55 million offer for Bruno Guimaraes rejected by Newcastle. Gunners have held preliminary discussions with player reps, encouraged to believe a deal could be done. Jose Mourinho wants to sign a new midfielder at Real Madrid. Decided to put any further arrivals on hold until at least one of the current midfielders, Tchouaméni, Camavinga, Valverde, Bellingham, or Goulet, leave. Mentioned the agreement with Elliot Anderson and City, lower than the previous British record of 125 when Isak moved to Liverpool, and is a fixed fee of 116 with no add-ons. AC Milan rejected an approach for NYC for Christian Pulisic. Current contract through June of 27, club option to extend for a year. Como have agreed on a deal to keep Nico Paz after Real Madrid informed the Serie A side they would trigger the €9 million return clause in the contract. Los Blancos have inserted another return clause in the deal, which could be used in the future. That's from Fabrizio Romano. Camavinga not open to leaving Real Madrid, despite the club being open to an exit. Mundo Deportivo. Florian Plettenberg says Ajax continuing to push for a loan deal to sign Marc-Andre ter Stegen. No agreement has been met. Talks ongoing. BBC, Brentford in talks with Burnley over a deal to sign Jadon Anthony. Jadon Anthony, 9 goals with the Clarets and a £20 million valuation to sign the former Arsenal Academy product. Football Insider, Arsenal set to lodge their first formal offer for Morgan Rogers from Villa. Villa may reluctantly accept an offer of £100 million. That's from Football Insider. They also report Everton are admirers of Gabriel Jesus, but might be difficult to get a contract deal over the line. Mundo Deportivo, Chelsea, Manchester United, Arsenal showing interest in Barcelona midfielder Marc Bernal, committed to the Blaugrana, isn't keen to leave. And then the Mirror, Forest tracking Ivory Coast midfielder Christ Inau Ulai, who is 20, as an option to replace Anderson. Sunderland and Brentford are in the mix for the star at Trabzonspor. Transfer is valued at £40 million. So that's the latest gossip, rumor, and innuendo that is attached to the morning. Getting into all of our other sources and folks that chase this on a daily basis. Checking in with our buddy Ben Jacobs. We mentioned the Bruno Guimaraes offer. Mentioned the Gonzalo Ramos offer. Senegal, by the way, made history. First African team to score 5 goals in a men's World Cup. Brighton have made a bid of around £30 million for Atalanta defender Honest Ahanor. That's from a combination of Jacobs and Alex Crook. Then let's see if there's anything domestically from Tommy Scoops and see what might be on his mind. We mentioned the Neymar move. Then San Diego FC have acquired center back Ian Murphy from the Rapids in exchange for a 2 and $100,000 in GAM in performance-based add-ons. San Diego adds to their defensive depth chart. Colorado had already signed center back Luke Williams, who has arrived and is in camp. Monterrey has made crew forward Diego Rossi a top target, and they made at least a preliminary approach. This is from Cesar Luis Merlo. Rossi is a long-term target for Rayados, 37 goals in his last 2.5 years for the crew. So that came from Cesar Luis Merlo yesterday. I'm trying to see if there's anything attached to anything else. Bravos announced the arrival of Lucas Romero from Universidad de Chile on a 3-year deal. Gianetti is a reinforcement for Newell's on a free from Antalyaspor. Ezekiel Unsain announced as Teixeira's new signing, 3-year deal option to extend for 1 more. Lautaro Giacone leaves Argentinos Juniors to play for Columbus Crew. Verbal agreement for a 1-year loan with a purchase option. And helping Merlo out on that was Uriel Luke, who works at Pasión Radio La Red and Mercado de Pases in Argentina. So that's early reports from transfers and things like that. So I'm trying to see if there's anything else that I might have missed this morning before we get out of here and get you ready for your day. If you're going someplace, once again, if you're going to Decatur, you're going to Celebration, you're going to a fan fest, your favorite fan fest in your part of the planet, stay properly hydrated, people. Please do that. Sunscreen, it's going to be a thick day today. It's going to be thick. So sunscreen, and it is going to be just hot. So hydration, sunscreen across the board. Bukayo Saka, according to Thomas Tuchel's pain-free, ready to start against Panama. Looking at another couple of possible ideas in transfers. Wout Weghorst, reunited with Erik ten Hag at FC Twente, going over from Ajax. 2-year deal reuniting with his former United boss, the new technical director in Erik ten Hag. So keep an eye on that. Stade Brest have confirmed Julien Lachuer as their new manager following the passing of Eric Waugh. He'd been the assistant to Waugh since the arrival in 23, and Waugh had specifically wished for the club to appoint Lachuer as his replacement. Fulham have announced the permanent signing of Jonakusi Asare from Bayern Munich for an undisclosed fee. 18-year-old joined the club on loan last summer. 7 Premier League appearances, scored 4 times in 5 PL2 games for the Cottagers. And so they are looking forward to that. Tony Khan says he's thrilled to welcome Jonakusi Asare to Fulham on a long-term deal. Thomas Tuchel insists Elliot Anderson's transfer to Manchester City is not a distraction at all. In the England camp, Spurs have confirmed Alejo Veliz set to leave the club to join Bahia in Brazil. Spurs looking to get just a fee of just under £8 million for the 22-year-old. 8 appearances, 1 Premier League goal, time on loan at Sevilla and at Espanyol. Bournemouth coaches Tommy Elphick and Sean Cooper have agreed deals to leave the club, now set to join Andoni Iraola at Liverpool. And Real Madrid confirmed yesterday Dani Ceballos is leaving the club. Been there since 2017. 215 appearances in all comps. All right, one more peek at the juice boxes. Our article is up on Lumumba Vea. Our sources sadly say that he will not be making the trip here for the matchup. Tonight was in Monterrey. Was in Guadalajara, and the Hoff got to see him. And the mention of Lumumba Vea in the Hoff's interview with us yesterday. So Lumumba Vea made it to Guadalajara. He is not apparently going to be here for match day 3 for DR Congo. Juice boxes once again, 5 o'clock. Croatia minus 106 to Ghana, who's a plus 450. Draws a plus 215. Panama plus 1,700 hosting England at a minus 588. Your draws a plus 810. 730s. Colombia is a dog at a plus 270 to Portugal. That's a big number. Draws a plus 297. Portugal a plus 102. That has gone closer to even money plus 100. DR Congo minus 135. That's dropped a little bit. Uzbekistan a plus 420. Draws a plus 295. 10 o'clockers. Algeria in Arrowhead is a plus 283. Austria plus 243. Draws a plus 110. That has shifted a lot. Jordan is a plus 2,000 now, as Argentina is a minus 625. And your draw is a plus 819. That'll do it for your preview. Match day last coming up in the group stage. And we'll be back at it again here tomorrow, 9:05, to break it all down, go through brackets, all the things, and get you ready for your Sunday, which will start the round of 32 with South Africa and Canada. That one is tomorrow afternoon. But we got to get through today. So like I said, sunscreen, hydration, enjoy your watch fests. For those of you here in this part of the footprint, it's been great to see all the different watch fests, all the different gathering parties, all the things that you guys have done to show your support for the sport. And we mentioned that the South's got something to say. You're showing it over and over and over again, whether it is outside 285, Indicator, downtown at the Fan Fest at Centennial Olympic Park. You guys are crushing it. It's supposed to be thick today. So like I said, just hydrate, sunscreen, hats, all that. Maddie, Sophia, Jason, and myself, we will be at Mercedes-Benz to let you know what's going on at Atlanta Stadium. We'll be there all day. And tonight we'll have all the reports. You've already seen a bit of our coverage already, getting ready for this particular matchup. So be a great part of everything going on and do your part. Stay hydrated, stay shaded, and use your sunscreen and get your proper clothing and enjoy the matches today, because the field gets to 32 at the end of this day, and then it starts in earnest. We'll have 31 at the end of the weekend chasing after a championship. Thanks again to Ali Howorth for the education on everything Africa football. See you down at Atlanta Stadium, everybody. Mucha Platiel, play it safe. And since it is the end of the show, thank you, Abby. Thank you, Shooter. And thank you, Ricky Ricardo, for hanging out, as you always do. You could have 9 teams from Africa making the final 32 if things go one direction today. See you downtown tonight, back here 9:05 a.m. tomorrow. Since it is the end of the show, that means we get to do this. See you in a bit, everybody. Enjoy your Saturday. It's going to be a fun one.